Hello and welcome to this videocast for subscribers to davidicke.com. Well, anyone who has followed the history of Western expansionism and what's called foreign policy will see that one word recurs again and again and again, and it is hypocrisy. Hypocrisy in the grotesque sight of the moral West, most notably the United States and Britain, condemning countries for human rights abuses and using that to justify invasion, bombing, regime change to protect the people, while at the same time other countries who are doing far, far worse in terms of human rights abuses are not only not condemned, are not only left to get on with it, but are massively armed by the moral West to help them do it. And of course, the reason I'm talking about this now is because of what's come to the fore in the last week or so with regard to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is one of the most evil regimes on earth, which executes its people continually, week after week, month after month, for things like protest against the government, the fake royal dictatorship that calls itself the government, that stays in power through sheer terror and terrorizing the population into conformity because they know the consequences of not conforming. It's put on public display all the time. Where is the condemnation of Saudi Arabia from these moralistic Western leaders? Nowhere. But primarily, it's not even hypocrisy. The decision over what you condemn and bomb and what you don't condemn and arm is quite simple. Are they beneficial to our agenda for global dictatorship? Or are they countries we have to regime change to bring about the goal of global fascist, communist, same thing really, dictatorship on a global scale? This is the simple explanation for why what appears to be hypocrisy, and on one level it is, but what is really about taking over the world by picking off country after country. Now, they want to remove what are called secular regimes in the Middle East, where people kind of are chilled out about people's religion and the different factions of the religion. And they want to take over those countries. And to do that, they need the support, covertly and otherwise, of countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, etc. And so when you have a country that you wish to target, and I've talked in the books at great length over the years and in the video casts about this list of countries, including Iraq and Libya and Syria, etc., that was put together a long, long time before any of this ever came into the public arena. They have this list of countries for takeover and creating chaos and mayhem. And they have their mates and associates in the fake royal dictatorships of these countries, most notably Saudi Arabia, to help them do it. So this is why Saudi Arabia and Qatar, for instance, have been arming and funding the rebels, Western-created rebels, that have been attacking the regimes in Libya to get rid of Gaddafi, and are attacking the regime in Syria to get rid of Assad. That's why they've been doing it, because they're on the side of it. See, once you fall for this idea that Arab countries must support Arab countries, surely they must support Arab countries against the West, then you've lost the plot, because the cement, the thing that holds this together, the point of allegiance, is not whether you're Arab or not, whether you're Muslim or not, in terms of these regimes I'm talking about. It's whether you are in support of this global agenda or not. And therefore, you will, if you're in support of it, arm, fund, and support in many other ways those forces that are taking over these countries to advance this agenda. So in that sense, the West, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, they're all on the same side against other countries and other parts of the Islamic world. And so you have your answer very clearly for why the West will condemn those countries and justify invasion and bombing, and stay absolutely silent about Saudi Arabia. And there's another reason why Saudi Arabia is so important to this agenda. And that is the plan which I've laid out in my books long, long ago that was coming. And that was the plan to create a civil war, if you like, between the Sunni Muslims and the Shia Muslims to tear asunder the Middle East. And of course, people will get so focused on I'm a Shia or I'm a Sunni, not everybody will, but significant numbers, that they won't stop, take a deep breath, and see the strings attached to them, the Sunnis, and the strings attached to them, the Shia, are actually held by the same hands, which are playing one off against the other to divide and rule. Divide and rule is one of the most potent weapons of human control and directing people in the direction that this hidden hand wants to go. And, you know, in the end, it's down to individuals, because to think that all these centuries later, there is still a division between Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims over the rightful line of succession from Mohammed. The thought that that is happening in now 2016 is staggering to me. It is the childlike playground mentality that allows the few to control the many. And this plays out with different factions of different things all over human society. What we're seeing now is the ramping up of that plan to play the Shia off against the Sunni. And although the vast numbers of Muslims are as chilled out as I am about whether someone's a Sunni or a Shia, there are significant numbers of both to play off against each other and create this Shia-Sunni conflict that's so long been in the pipeline. And so you can look at events in the last week or so from that perspective very clearly. Saudi Arabia triggered an expansion of this conflict because Iran is the center of the Shia Muslim world, and Saudi Arabia is the center of the Sunni Muslim world, in effect. And so what did Saudi Arabia do? It executed a prominent Shia cleric, also bombed the Iranian embassy in Yemen during its grotesque slaughter of Shia in Yemen, ongoing. And it was all designed because Saudi Arabia is a front for this Western cabal and the hidden hand behind it, which I include Israel in, by the way, when I talk about a Western cabal. It systematically has ramped up this conflict by executing this Shia cleric. And of course, what happened, because this global agenda, you can think of it as like rows of dominoes in a room. And it's worked out that if you push this domino over, that domino will fall. In other words, you do A and B will occur. So, of course, what happened is when they killed the Shia cleric, there was a reaction in Iran, the center of the Shia Muslim world, with attacks on the Saudi embassy. This has led to the Saudi Arabians, fake royals, ending diplomatic ties with Iran, not that there were any. And others have followed suit, the usual bloody suspects, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, or the other ones on the team with the West. And now we are seeing this move on, this attempt to create this civil war in the Islamic world. And again, it's important that we don't fall for this idea of my enemy's enemy is my friend. Thus, because Saudi Arabia is so grotesque and is in league with the West, then we must say nothing about Iran. Iran has an appalling human rights record also. The point of looking at how this all unfolds is not to say good guys, bad guys. It's to explain why these events are happening. And we have a situation where the West looks on and condemns Iran and Gaddafi and Assad, while not only stays silent about Saudi Arabia with its unbelievable abuse of human rights and the almost unspeakable treatment of women. I've been there, it's horrible. The way the people are crushed by an extreme form of Islam which the Saudi royal fakes have actually made up and called it Islam. And the West looks on. And not only that, between 2010 and 2014, the United States sold Saudi Arabia $100 billion worth of arms, according to reports this week. And Britain, moral Britain, the mother of parliaments, has sold billions and billions of pounds worth of arms to Saudi Arabia to use against whoever it chooses to use them against. In current times, Yemen, and attacks on the Shia community in Yemen that have caused vast numbers of deaths and injuries and have created mayhem and hunger in that society. Where is the West in all this? Cheering them on. And when you think in this inverted world, but it's inverted, but when you realize it's what team are you on dictates how we respond to you, it makes simple sense of what appears to be a complex situation, but isn't. When you think that the moral United States, and Britain as well, to a lesser extent in terms of volume of money, but when you think that the United States claims to be this force of moral good, that only wants peace and what's good for the world, and yet it sells more than half of the weapons its armament companies produce to other countries, many of them with grotesque human rights records, and that's absolutely the case as well with Britain. You know, when you look around and you see what is happening in Libya after the Cameron-Obama NATO-supported bombing, when you think that this ISIS group, which is, by the way, Sunni attacking Shia, all part of the same story, you think this ISIS group is taking over parts of Libya as a result of the bombing, exactly as planned. When you see that children in a once thriving Syria are now starving in besieged towns because of a war begun by these same moralistic psychopaths, then you can see that the world that we are presented with by the mainstream media, bad regime, support the bombing, is a grotesque farce of what's really going on. And the farce reached new levels this week with the response of Obama and the presidential candidates, including Trump, to this emerging, unfolding conflict between Shia Iran and Sunni Saudi Arabia. In that, to quote Trump, for instance, quote one to quote them all, when asked what he would do in the face of this conflict, he said, "We must protect Saudi Arabia. We must protect one of the most evil, grotesque regimes on planet Earth." Sums it up. Politicians are going to change the world. They created the bloody world. We have to change it.